Welcome to Destination Linux, the Pandora of open source rebellion, where every commit unleashes bioluminescent chaos against the corporate RDA of closed source greed, straight out of Avatar. I'm Jill, your fierce animation warrior and vintage PC tamer, drawing the bow and code faster than I can scream. You will never be one of the people at third-party intruders. Ryan is our Jake Sully this week, jacked into the Linux neural network with his Navi war party, ready to bond with the tree of voices and torch proprietary Sky People tech.
Plus,
Craig
I'm a
Rowland.
hacker, Jill. See?
You are.
Look at this. Craig needs to respect me as a hacker. And I thought, if I'm going to get Craig Rowland, right, to respect me as a hacker, then I have to wear a hoodie because that's what he respects. He knows now that I'm a professional hacker.
I'm sure there's a certification today just for hoodies in the InfoSec world. And it's probably 90. It's probably 90 degrees in your room, and you're still going to wear that hoodie just to spite me.
It is Texas, and it's hot, but I needed you to know how good of a hacker I am, Craig, and so
it's good.
I had to put the hoodie on, you know?
I sensed that as soon as the hood went up, you're just a changed man.
Ryan's just a script kiddie.
That's right. That's true.
I'm
Vibe coding
you,
script kiddie.
So Craig Rowland, founder and CEO of Sandfly Security, is our elite hunter of supply chain threats, writing Turok-level intrusion detection across the network canopy and slicing compromised vendors clean out of the clan. This week's Aqua connection, we're exposing the real-world dangers of third-party integrations and supply chain attacks. Marveling at the bold new open source macOS challenger rising from the Hallelujah Mountains and decoding the Canonical AMI alliance that's linking clouds like a global neural braid. So mount your ICRane, sync your repos, and remember, in open source, the people fight back. Let's fly.
This is Destination Linux. Good job, Jill. Good job. That was not an easy intro.
No.
You should have seen it before because I had actual names of the avatar characters, which are like Abakala Kawawawa.
Yeah.
And I'm like, let me cut that out and just keep it a little more, you know.
I was about to pull up my thesaurus. So like, what's going on?
Yeah, I know.
These names.
I know.
First, Ryan's a hacker. Next, you got to pull out your thesaurus. What's happening on this show?
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
In our community feedback this week, we received some feedback from Tyler, who says this: "Hi, everyone. I was just listening to DL444 and heard Ryan's response to the comment about censorship. First off, I'd like to thank you all for the show. It is a great show and always makes me laugh as well as teaching me something. I wrote in years ago and told you all about how you helped me through one of the hardest times of my life. That at the time, all I said was it was one of the darkest times I have experienced. I remember that email, and Tyler went on to kind of share with us some details on that. I didn't feel comfortable, sharing those parts on the show, but I want to say this, Tyler, that, we send our heartfelt love to you and your family. And I want you to know that having you a part of the DL audience is a privilege for us. Yeah. And getting your email, as much as you say we've helped you, these emails like this help us tremendously.
Yes.
There's always things changing and going on with, trying to run a podcast network. And there are so many challenges when you're producing this stuff. I mean, I'm in college full time. I work full time. I have a full-time family and doing the whole running this business side of things. So things are very busy. And when you get amazing feedback like this and kind feedback like this, it makes all the difference to us in the world. And people like you mean a lot to us here on the show.
Oh, Tyler, I wanted to mention to you that being here on Destination Linux kind of saved my life. I had gone through a horrible time as well, and doing podcasting helped me focus on the positive and on Linux, one of my favorite things in the world. So I it touches me that you are comforted by our words.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting, Jill, to ever think about you having a hard time because you're always so happy. But all of us go through really difficult times at different levels, obviously. But you still show up every week smiling, which I think is what makes you so special. Whereas I come in and just get angrier when things go wrong. So one of the differences there between us. But Tyler goes on to say, listening to your podcast while making my then 200-mile round trip commute truly helped bring some levity to me. You all have helped inspire me to learn more and more of Linux, and I now work as a pen tester, which I never thought would be possible. Congratulations. Did you get a hoodie? That's the real question. Because if you're a pen tester, Craig says you have to have a hoodie, right? Craig, isn't that what you said?
Hoodie or go home. That's the logo. That's the tagline of my pen test school.
I love it. Hoodie or go home. You know what? We might make a shirt of that. Hoodie or go home on our storefront. And, Craig Rowland underneath. It'll be his famous quote.
Oh, brother. I can't imagine. I'll be getting
go from a sponsor to suing us. Get rid of that shirt or else.
The reason is I'll be forced to wear it. And I'm just, how I am about hoodies.
I love it. It's one of my favorite stories you tell because so many of us believe when you're not in it and you just watch the movies and TVs and everything, that if you see somebody in a hoodie with a backpack full of equipment, that's elite hacker. And you busted that bubble. And I don't know if I'm happy with you for that or not. Because man, it's a cool bubble.
I forgot even what I said. Sometimes I just get kind of like diarrhea of the mouth. I just start going. But yeah, man, elite hackers look like no one. I think you want to be just want to blend in.
Jeans.
That's it, man. If you're going into a phone closet, you got on a tool belt and a hat. You know what I mean? You're gonna look the part.
That's it. You don't go in with that. You're not going to do any physical break-in or pen testing or social hacking looking exactly like a hacker, right? You're going to try to blend in.
Yeah, you pull out the lockpicks, you got the ski mask on. Probably a bad place to start.
Ski
mask. You look like a Brinks. He looked like the Brinks burglar alarm commercial, right? The guy walking around. Yeah.
Oh, it's fantastic. They go on to say, as for Ryan, he really does make me laugh a lot. Oh my gosh, Jill, this is the second compliment I've gotten. There's at least 2 people out there out of the 400,000 listeners that like me. So there's that. They say, I almost never watch the video version. When I do, seeing him grab all the wrong gear at the end of the show that is not in your store is really funny. That's kind of a thing I do. I also love to see him supporting EFF, which love them or hate them is one of the best organizations out there. And anyone who enjoys tech should be donating time or money to if you're able. What's interesting about the EFF is they've done so much good. And I see this with a lot of companies, a lot of projects and things. There are a lot of projects out there that do so much good, but then somebody will find something they don't like that they did. And maybe they're right. Maybe it is a dumb thing that they did. But then that somehow erases everything that organization has ever done. And I hate that mentality. So I know some people have some gripes with some of the things that EFF has done. But when you look at the bigger picture of what EFF has done, I think for the most part, they've been on the right side more times than not. And I think the best of us hope that could be said about all of us, right? When we're talking about this stuff, because things change very fluidly in the technology world. I also love hearing Ryan's take and journey on security and privacy. Well, now you've got the tip on the hoodie, so you're welcome. I went from fixing copy machines and digital presses to being a pen tester, and it's super fun to hear and see Ryan's ideas and progress. Keep ignoring the haters and doing what you all do. It really is a great show, and you all are amazing humans from what I can tell. Thank you for everyone at Tux Digital. I really enjoy the podcast that you have. Sincerely, Tyler, a.k.a. Crazy Horse. Cool hacker name, by the way.
Yeah.
Listen, Tyler, I couldn't have asked for a better email to brighten up my week and my day. And I know Jill feels the same way. You're awesome.
Absolutely.
We appreciate you. All the love and support in the world to you. And hope we get to meet you someday in person in one of the conferences and things out there. It'd be really cool. If you want to send in your comments, and they all have to be compliments, I'm kidding. Go to destinationlinux.net/comments and you can send in your comments to us and it may get read on the show. It gets, I love having you on, Craig, but one of the things that's awkward is there's this ad read time for Sandfly, which you are the CEO of. So it's kind of like, am I reading to you about the thing that you already know because you're Sandfly? Sandfly.
It's like you're in the principal's office, like needing to read like the 100 sentences he had scribbled on the board for doing something naughty, right? Or something like that.
And what if I mess up? Then I'm going to be like, oh my gosh, he probably thinks I do this all the time. There's so much pressure now. I don't know what to do.
I don't know.
I'm kidding. Look,
I could always do the ad read, but read it in the third person. I don't know. It might be a funny way to do it. I'll have to find a hoodie put on to make it legit, though.
Yeah. Listen, Sandfly is an amazing project. Let me just, instead of doing the typical ad read, say this, because Craig and I had this discussion earlier. We were talking about future of this show and some of the things that we want to do. And one of those discussions were various sponsorships and companies that we work with and things like that. And one of the things that we talked about that we were very upfront with is on this show, we've created a very close relationship with our community. And with that comes a lot of trust is enabled in us. So when we decide to bring on a sponsor, I was telling Craig, I got a call this week. Somebody got a hold of my phone number, which means I have a security issue I've got to figure out. Got a hold of my phone number and called me and said, hey, my director wanted me to call you. I'm from XYZ VPN and we want to sponsor your show. I'd never heard of the VPN before. And Craig and I have very similar feelings towards almost every VPN out there, that most of them are complete garbage out there. So, the answer was automatically no, but that's money left on the table. Technically, most podcasts would just say, sure, if you could pay this money, we're going to do your ad read. And they just do that. But we don't do that. And that's why we have Sandfly Security on the show. This is a project that we believe in. We not only believe in it so much that, we want it to be sponsored on our show, but we also have Craig on all the time to talk to us about security updates. And Sandfly does things differently. They don't utilize the traditional agents that are known for dragging your system down. They're an agentless platform designed for Linux. And you can go to destinationlinux.net/Sandfly and see how they can transform your security strategy. And, we also have the quote from Timothy Lisko of DigitalOcean, but Craig's been doing now the second videos out about how you can utilize DigitalOcean to just simply, very easily, like I think the video is less than 10 minutes, launch Sandfly from DigitalOcean and then start connecting it to securing your technology. Basically anything you can SSH into that you have an SSH connection, you could probably run Sandfly off of.
The video is probably 8 minutes longer than it takes to actually install the product. So we have a really good working relationship with DigitalOcean. We love DigitalOcean. The guys there, they're a great, easy to use platform. They're super reliable. Like, we've never had an outage with them. I mean, think about it. Yeah. How many people have had outages from other places? Like, it's never gone down on us. So it's a good product. So we're in their store, and it's very easy just to spin up our instance to start watching your DigitalOcean workloads. Like, within minutes, you'll be up and going. So check it out. And, and like I said, for a limited time, we're going to ship you a free hoodie. No, I banned hoodies as marketing merch. Banned.
Yes.
We won't print them. If you don't, you'll know something's wrong. It's just like, you'll know I've been taken hostage if you see us offer a hoodie. Right?
There you go. Like, something's wrong. Craig's in trouble. We got to come rescue him.
Yeah.
But you probably have hats and sweatshirts.
We
Ryan,
we got a custom T-shirt here. So
that's
pretty
beautiful.
dope.
Yeah, I love the turquoise like and purple
military style logo. But so. For your ad read, I don't know. I could contribute something if you want, or just sit here quietly. It's fine.
Go if you want to contribute something.
I have to say, look, the basic premise of it's an agentless product. We're used by a very large global critical infrastructure. Like, if your system's got to be monitored, but they can't go down, you want to risk putting an agent on them. Sandfly is a really good way to go. It's like we're going to work on everything from a big GPU cluster in the cloud down to embedded devices running ARM, MIPS, IBM Power CPU, S390, AMD, Intel. So we can watch not just servers on-prem, but get into Ryan's privacy thing. That's really important for a lot of critical infrastructures. We don't send any data outbound. So there's no third party. It doesn't get sent to us. It's not sent up to the cloud. It can work in totally air-gapped environments. And a lot of these security products don't do that. A lot of them want to send the data out to the mothership. And I'm telling you what, security telemetry is super confidential stuff. And you don't want it sent somewhere potentially leaked. So if you're in an organization where you have tight control, and many organizations have regulatory reasons, they can't send the data outside of their borders, for instance, with certain national critical infrastructure, we're a really good option for you there. So that's my spiel. No hoodie required.
Yep, no hoodie required, but you look cooler with one. You can also get 50% off by using the discount code Destination50, because you can use this for your home labs as well. And look, the hope is you're going to check this out in your home lab. You're going to go to your business, like earlier when we're talking about becoming a pen tester or working in administration, and talk to them about Sandfly Security. So go to destinationlinux.net/Sandfly and see how Sandfly can transform your security strategy. Craig, you were talking about the kind of third-party chain breaches. What was really interesting is this week, my college courses have all been around third-party security breaches and how you can protect yourself. And of course, there's discussions about the NIST standards and different things like that out there. But every time I seem to open up the news, I have feeds that are made just for cybersecurity so I can learn as much as I can about the attacks and exploits. It seems like, in my mind at least, every other one recently has been, hey, there's some third-party package, there's some extension, there's some other person that's 3 layers down from us's fault. That's the reason why we got breached. It's not our fault, it's their fault. And so this is what I kind of brought to you as a suggestion of, can we talk about, like, are you seeing the same thing that I'm seeing? And then 2 is there ways that we can actually protect ourselves from this, especially in the open source world where it becomes a little more shaky, maybe?
It is. It's a tough problem. Honestly, I'm surprised it's taken this long for supply chain attacks to really blossom. It's been pretty shocking. So when I first started Sandfly, I wrote a lot of the initial code myself, and we have some code that runs on the remote system that does the forensic engines. And there's a very strict rule we had. That code either came from the Golang project or rewrote it. We didn't bring in third-party tools on purpose. And over time, if we've ever used a third-party tool, we always brought it into our source tree to be hand audited, things like that. So we were very well aware of this risk, and other companies were too, in all fairness. They just didn't talk about it. But now I think it's really gotten to the point where a lot of these projects are so complicated, it's almost impossible to avoid third-party code and tools and things being used. And even stuff like VSCode, people are like, they're loading up all sorts of crazy extensions and are thinking about it. And, those extensions are a supply chain attack. They're just doing it very indirectly. Instead of going directly to your source code tree, they're going to do it through VS Code and harvest tokens and things like that. And, I like to tell people, people talk about token, they put this fancy word, token. A token is a password that's already had the 2-factor authentication bypassed. That's basically what it is. You steal the token, it's already, you've already done your hardware 2FA and all that. The token is it. It's like, it's worse than a password. So, it's very easy for some of these attacks to get in. And of course, on the supply chain side, to your point, these open source projects are so complicated now. And even, I do an update on my system, it might pull over a gigabyte worth of updates, like easily, right? Yeah. So how do you audit it? All right. You're really open source. It comes down to trust. I mean, you're trusting that these maintainers are doing their work. And it's almost all volunteer work, not paid. They're frequently under a lot of other pressure, and they're larger teams. But it's a big problem.
Yeah, this is interesting from open source because, open source is typically seen in many instances as, especially when it comes to security. For instance, let me give you an example. Notesnook is a recent application that I started using for my note-taking app. And it's open source code, so I can see that they're actually utilizing the correct encryption algorithms within the code, and that it's not sending things out to the cloud and that type of stuff. I had someone reach out with a very cool project that they're working on, which was another note-taking app. And they had a lot of things on their webpage. They said, hey, could you take a look at this? Maybe even talk about it on the show and things, or just give me some feedback. And so I was looking at all these awesome claims, but I'm thinking the whole time, hey, I can't see the code because it's not open source. And I don't really know whether I trust that or not. So, I gave that feedback to them, and they plan on making their pieces open source. But my point is that in a lot of instances with open source, I feel more secure because I can go look at that code. It's not through the obscurity concept. At the same time, you bring up a really interesting point that, hey, you may have 7 layers of open source projects that create one that somebody's pulling in for one project.
Yep.
And you're assuming that person who's pulling all of those other 7 projects, who, by the way, they might be just 1 or 2 people themselves, are going through the thousands of lines of code of everything that they're pulling in to make sure that's safe. And they're doing that every single time any of those update.
Yeah.
Probably not happening, right? So this creates a trust situation. And we have been fortunate that the people in the open source community have been really, when you think about everything running on it, very trustworthy compared to the amount of breaches and things that we had. At the same time, I feel like with all the state actors and everything else going on, all the governments not getting along in a 5x5 sandbox with a single sand paddle, like this may change because it's much easier to get into an open source project. You gave the example when we were talking about this earlier of it's much harder to go get a job at Microsoft than it is to become a volunteer to work on an open source project.
Yep, that's right.
There's truth to that, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm kind of at this quandary where it's like, how do you properly protect against something when we know none of us are going to sit there and read through the tens of thousands of lines of code out there?
It's tough. Well, I mean, look, I can speak like from the professional development side. I think you need to rely a lot on automated auditing tools, and there are companies out there now that I won't name any here. I don't want to talk too much, but there are companies out there now that are doing supply chain risk management and mitigation. I don't know what their policies are for helping open source projects. Like, for instance, we give out free licenses to any open source project. So it might be, if you're running an open source project, you might want to reach out to some of these companies. Maybe they can flick you something free too to help you with the auditing and make sure everything is working correctly. I don't know. It's just an idea. I don't know what their policies are, but I mean, you have to automate a bit. I don't think it's going to catch everything though. Honestly, I think they do leave things exposed. I think one thing that's really important for open source maintainers to understand is that your hobby project might be used in critical infrastructure. Like, you don't know, like, oh, I write this simple utility, the simple library. Well, you don't know where it's going to end up. I mean, it could end up on a satellite. Like, I mean, you don't know, right? So you should be aware that you might be targeted by someone who's really sophisticated because they know you're a couple levels deep. And this is what happened to the author of the XE compression algorithm, right? He wasn't the SSH, but the SSH package was using that library, and he was this lone guy working, and they went after him with something really, really sophisticated. It was an extremely sophisticated attack. It took a long time to pull it off. It had psychological manipulation, all sorts of other stuff going on there. So, just because you're maintaining a small package, I think you need to take, a good bit of care, just as you were if you were a large project, just because you just don't know. And it's just unfortunate that you might have someone who's contributing for a while, but that doesn't mean they're not going to, to your point, they might not suddenly decide one day to start doing some subtle stuff to cause trouble. So I think really all code changes as best you can. If you're maintaining an open source project, you should try to audit it at least at your local level, because it's a lot easier, if someone submits a 100-line patch at your level, it's easy to audit that versus now I bundled 1,000 packages, each with 100 lines of code chain. Now the guy upstream needs to monitor and audit 100,000 lines of code. You know what I mean? So I still think that open source side, yes, there's a lot of trust to your point, and it's amazing it's worked as well as it has so far. But I do think that there's quite a bit involved with maintaining it. And again, even small projects, you just need to be excruciatingly careful today. And one of the things I mentioned in my notes here is just like, people might comment like Linus Torvalds has this famous flamings bad kernel patches, right?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
at least he's looking at the code. Right. To me, I'm like, I know he is looking at the code because it got him to the point where he has issued a, and I'm not saying you go flame people, but you should have that level of care about your own project. Those of you who are maintaining your own project, you should have that level of care that you're going to say, we're going to look at all this code, regardless of who it is who's submitting it, to make sure it's up to the standards we expect. Because again, you don't know where that code is going. I mean, it literally could be in like, a defibrillator. You know what I mean? I mean, hospitals use Linux. It's air traffic control systems use Linux. Autonomous vehicles use Linux. I mean, you don't know. You just have to assume your code, your weekend side project, is being used somewhere really, really critical, and someone might be interested in it.
Yeah.
Well, it's built into the open source ethos is forking. And bringing projects together. That's what makes Linux, one of the things that makes Linux so special. Like, for instance, FFmpeg, it is the backend for every audio video application on Linux, whether it's OBS or VLC. And can the developer, will they have time to go through all that code and read it,
or even understand it, right? Because
even understand it.
Yeah.
And
it's hand-tuned assembly.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like a giant Lego set with no instructions.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And they're not individually packaged in bags either, because not everybody comments the same in their code. Not everybody has good code writing, skills and things with making sure that they're using comments properly and explaining pieces of their code. That's a really good point, Jill. Mm-hmm. I think it's a real risk. Now, if you bring this back to kind of the home user, the everyday user, or even for the businesses, for this matter, extensions are everywhere. You mentioned VSCode. What's interesting about that mention, Craig, is VSCode goes from basically having no market share to being the top code editor out there, right? I mean, there's IDE. There's nothing really, when you look at market share now, that's even close to VS Code. There was like Sublime Text and others, and they were all kind of battling, but now it's pretty much like 70% or more VS Code, I think, the last time we looked at the developer pools. The problem when something becomes that popular, too, is it becomes a really popular attack vector at that point. Because if you can get in there, now you can do something to affect a lot of people. And what better place than to get to the core code where people are writing all of their source code from is to get an extension where you can get some of that information from, which is really, really interesting that you mentioned that. But I also think about the browsers. When you look at the extensions in a browser, what are your thoughts, Craig? Like, what's your policy when it comes to extensions?
We talked about this briefly. I currently run 0 browser extensions. I used to run some ad blockers like uBlock Origin, but they've all been deprecated basically. I try to really use a browser with built-in ad blocking, things like that. There's some out there now that are a lot more aggressive, but in general, especially for the browser I use for business, banking related reasons, stuff. I do have a browser that I use for like messing around, right? Casual. And then I have another browser I just use it for what I call high risk activities. And that the messing around browser, I might run that in an isolated type of environment. There's different ways to do it. Some people have been running inside VMs, some have been running inside Docker, some people can use FireJail as another programming use. So there's different ways to run it isolated. But then my other browser, that's my business. What do I call this? The browser, what do I call it? The mullet philosophy. Business up front, party in the back. The mullet browser. Yeah, the mullet browser. Yeah, so I have a business browser that has no extensions on it. And I think it's just safer that way. Yeah, sure, you got to use Google or Microsoft products, and you might have to load an extension, but those come from these big companies. That's a lot lower risk than loading up, Joe Blow's, super emoji extension or whatever you're downloading, right?
Yeah.
And, because that's my personal policy.
I think that's a good policy, but the other thing too, when you talk about an actual company, is there have been instances where people can make their name look like Microsoft when they create something, right? Because they can use different letters and different keyboard algorithms and things. So you see a publisher of Microsoft and maybe it won't stay up there long, but long enough for you to download it. Number two is people can fake reviews. I know a lot of people find security in reviews. So you go in the extension store, you see something that's 5 stars and downloaded 55,000 times and you go, it's got to be safe, right? 55,000 other people use it. But there's this chain of command thing that happens with these projects as well. So maybe there's a couple scenarios. Maybe the person who created it was a really good person and they had the greatest of intentions, but now they can't support it anymore and somebody else bought it from them or took over for them. And that person now has turned that one that was 55,000 5 stars into a data gathering trap for all of your Bitcoin or whatever they're doing with it. So there's that risk on it. And then there's, the other side of it where it's actually, they just go in there and fake a bunch of stuff coming in and make it look like it was legit. So the point is, I really like your 0 extension philosophy. I use one extension, which is Privacy Badger from EFF. I find it to be incredibly good at blocking a lot of the fingerprinting and other things that go on behind the scenes at sites. It's nothing's perfect, but it's
I
a very
should look
good
at that
tool.
again. I haven't used it in years. I should probably look at it now that some of these other ad blockers have been disabled by certain very large unnamed companies that rhyme with Dougal.
We'll never figure that out, Craig. Give them an easier puzzle, man.
Yeah, I don't know.
Ryan, like you, I use Privacy Badger, and I've occasionally played around with others because we've talked about, fun extensions here on the show.
Yeah.
But I don't always keep them installed for that reason because I'm always a little nervous. So I've always been very minimal myself.
I think it's a really good philosophy. And I think people need to kind of consider that with apps on their phone, even in a way. Yeah. When you're installing all of these apps on your phone, I see some people's phones and I'm like,
that's crazy.
They could scroll on for days of the amount of stuff that they have downloaded. You have to understand that there's a reason why the companies are so aggressive with wanting you to use their app, whether it be Reddit or Twitter or anybody else. As soon as you go to the website, what's the first thing that pops up? Hey, download our app, download our app, download our app.
Yeah.
They're going to get far more information from you if you have an app installed on your phone than if you just go to the website. Not that the website doesn't give them plenty, but they're going to get far more if you have that app on your phone. They can also ping you endlessly with notifications. They can do all kinds of stuff if they have that app. So I even tell people, like, if you're going to use, I don't do social media stuff, but if you're going to use social media, then do it through a browser, a secured one you don't do anything else with. Maybe use Firefox and put it in a container. Maybe you do it with social media for your business.
It's called the mullet strategy.
There you go. I was just thinking, Craig.
I love that.
What they're going to do is you're going to have this article on Wikipedia written about you, and you're going to all these things you've accomplished, but the one thing it's going to highlight is the man who came up with the mullet strategy.
The mullet. Your business browser, your party browser.
Now, I'm constantly having to use social networking on my phone because I am the
we make Jill do it.
social media manager here at Destination Linux, and I have been since I started. And but I do most of that social media through the web pages, through private Firefox. Open up the privacy on that, and other browsers I use because I don't usually go directly through the apps unless I have
cross-contaminate. You don't cross-contaminate.
I don't cross.
Your privacy didn't matter, Jill, so that's why we made you do it.
Yeah.
Because who's going to attack Jill? Like, what are you going to, the happy person? Oh, good job, guy. Like, you're just going to be the most hated hacker in the world anyways if you go after Jill. So, like, whatever. Not worth it. Whereas you get me, you get probably an award or something out there. I think that every company, we talked about supply chain and open source, but even with closed source proprietary stuff, people are utilizing packages, languages that they're writing their code in from other sources. You mentioned, IDEs and extensions and those things. AI is another huge risk for people. Yeah. There was just a leak. I don't have the details on it, but it was mentioning that some enterprise level of one of the AI services, I think I know it, but I don't want to name it because I'm not 100% on it, basically was showing people the results of another company's AI prompts. And so when you see stuff, this cross-contamination and things like that occurring, there's all kinds of risks out there. The more stuff that you're adding are additional attack vectors, which in the cybersecurity world, your goal is really to limit those as much as possible. There's never zero, but you want to limit as many attack vectors as possible. And I think companies nowadays find it easier to just borrow, share, grab somebody else's thing, use their website of another service, and all of these other pieces that make it, a lot more attack vectors for you to have to deal with, or even WordPress. Right?
Yeah, you can. I mean, look, and again, I'm coming from a dev shop here with us. Like we have a policy basically. It's like you can't load an extension unless the managers, we approve it. Right. We don't want you loading this thing. We just, more dev teams probably need to be adopting that type of approach. It's so easy to get lazy. Like you said, you get one developer on a team and they load something because it looks cool. And now the thing's in your source code. And, we recently had like that shy hello worm that it hit all the NPM. It was crawling all the sources and stealing tokens and making changes. It's just like that thing was actually doing a favor. If you got hit with that, it did you a favor because it showed you that you've got serious problems in how you're handling package management.
Okay.
Yeah. So you just have some policies in place and tell your developers, don't do it, and just make it a strict rule, and make sure they understand. Especially junior devs, they tend to, I think, be the most likely to get lulled into loading up something to save some time or do something silly.
I think I really think AI is going to be a huge risk for a lot of people, because there's a lot of comfort for a junior dev or new people coming in and saying, I have this tool I can ask instead of that mean old senior developer over there who yells at me every time I ask him a question. And so you're like, I'm just going to put this innocent information in there and see what it gets back. But it's creating a big security risk for companies. People are, from data analysts to people who are working on, back-end network designs and everything else, are taking this data. And let's say your boss tells you, I got a presentation, you need to have it ready to do in an hour, and I need that data in graphs. And they're dumping it in their paid subscription for ChatGPT or whatever, their personal account. And they're saying, hey, take all this customer data and give me some graphs. They then take that and they present it, and it looks really great, hopefully, for their boss and things. But at the same time, you've exposed your company and all of that customer information that you have dumped into that AI tool. It's just such a massive risk for people.
I mean, you have to hope. You got to hope that the companies, like some of them, like Google, for instance, if you have commercial license at Gemini, they have agreements like say we're not going to use our data to train off of and things. You just hope. I guess that they're going to abide by those terms. I think the tools. I suspect the tools are here to stay. I guess it's a question of training people, like what is and is not appropriate to use it. And I played with a couple of the agentic dev tools that are supposed to be doing things on your system. And I put on an isolated box, and I was just like, okay, let's see what this thing does. And it's like, I'm going to open up the command line and do this and this and this and this and this. And like, it was neat. It got it wrong, but the thing is, it's like, it's neat, but they're running commands, and you just have to. I don't know. I think that development tactics and techniques are going to have to evolve to deal with some of this in a more secure way. Would I let one of these things loose on my, on my main system? Like, no. But I think that the teams are going to have to come to it. Things like the AI tools now, they're all over the place in terms of, I know I'm hoping the AI bubble pops a bit. They're useful in some places, but some places are like anti-useful.
Yes.
I don't know what's going to come of the whole mess.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. And it was one of the AI's kind of boom was one of the big things that pushed me to get back into cybersecurity in a big way, because I saw this thing as a disaster, because I was watching people telling me, hey, I work for so-and-so company. You won't believe what I was able to do this week. And I'm like, you just dumped 10,000 customer records into an AI tool and had it pump you out a graph. Congratulations. You've exposed your entire company and all of those people to basically having their data stolen. And so I think it creates a lot of risks and things. But this is the point of the whole thing, is that I think we've become a little bit, at least even speak for myself, I think a lot of times it becomes really easy to go install that app, go install that extension, go utilize that new tool to make your life a little easier without thinking about how this is going to have a downward impact on the security of, your business or the business you work for and things like that. And I think we're kind of getting away from the concept of minimizing our attack vectors when we keep complicating and adding these things in. So, maybe relook at, if you're at home, relook at the apps you have on your phone, relook at the extensions you have in your browser. And if you're a developer, like Craig said, look at all of the different various pieces that you're pulling in for your packages. And on the flip side, maybe AI is something that can help audit some of that code at some point.
It would be useful comments to say, like a package management, for instance. I'm very suspicious on software packages that are very old, haven't been touched in a while. But likewise, packages that are old, but then they become active again out of the blue. Like that stuff's really suspicious. But again, how are you going to see all of it? I think some of the new tooling can help detect some of these anomalies. I don't know, something like that. I'm sure something like that must exist by now. But yeah, you might just want to have a general package cleanup day. I mean, one of the problems I have with some of the languages, like the whole Node ecosystem is a mess in terms of package management. Unfortunately, Rust has adopted a lot of the same principles. It's a horrendous number of packages that get pulled in with Rust builds. So, I think people need to be a lot more aware of what's going on. And one of the things I tell our own dev team here is we are not going to be the crash test dummies. We're not going to update the package immediately, right when it comes out. You got to let it stew. Unless it's a critical security vulnerability that affects your product, you should just sit back for a bit, lock the versions in your source tree, so they're not being automatically updated. And then when new changes come out, try as best you can to take a look at what the changes were. If you have time, especially if you're doing any type of code that might be critical, you just got to put eyeballs on it, unfortunately, and you just can't assume that people have looked at it. Again, I'm going from the developer side.
Yeah, don't do updates on Fridays. That's the other thing. Never do an update on a Friday. Yeah, because
I think I told you all. I had a test system that pulled over the XZ backdoor library before it got yanked. It was from a Rowland distro, and it automatically pulled that the XE backdoor code in. Now that's not a production system; it's a test system that does rolling updates. But it's a lot of people got hit by that stuff. But that system violates my principle of don't pull immediate code. But we use it. I use it for dev testing, right? So we want to use the latest kernel and things like that. We should let these broken. But it's the same thing here. Don't be the crash test dummy. I just wait a bit. It's amazing how many of these backdoored libraries get caught relatively quickly in the open source world. They get caught relatively quickly, but you don't want to be numero uno, right?
Exactly.
Wait 30 days or so, right? If you can. And like I said, unless it's a critical security bug, just chill.
Relatively quickly is in the context of you're not that first one that gets hit.
Yeah, man. Don't be the first.
For sure.
You first. You first. That's it.
You try it first.
That should be that's your dev motto for updates. You first. Yeah.
Man, I feel like you've made 3 T-shirts on this episode, Craig. We got you first, mullet, the mullet philosophy.
Yeah.
We got a lot of ones here. We're getting a lot out of you, Craig.
Mullet browser.
Mullet browser. Going on to maybe slightly.
I should fork. I really should fork one of these browsers and make a mullet browser. That'd be hilarious.
There you go.
Sorry, separate topic.
It has 2 versions. You switch between your party and your serious part right up front. The mullet's coming back, Craig. A lot of kids in school are wearing mullets these days.
It never left New Zealand. It's still down
really?
here in New Zealand. I'm
okay.
down. For your audience may not know, I'm in America. I live in New Zealand. It never left.
Wow. Man. Did we influence that as Americans to New Zealand? Did we give you all the mullet?
No, it's just.
Did you give us the mullet? That's the question.
New Zealand is a
mullet capital of the world.
20 to 30 years behind the rest of the world in terms of cultural evolution. So they might be coming out of the mullet, might be coming out of fashion now. Now that it's back in fashion, I'm expecting to see bell bottoms down here.
Bell bottoms,
yes,
cool.
let's bring them back. They're so awesome.
Love those.
All right, so this is a fun project I want to talk about next because I know a lot of people in the community, they like macOS as well, and they love Linux, but they like macOS. They have some of their computers and things like that. And look, Mac does some great things on their system. So I came across this really interesting open source project, and this one technically isn't Linux, it's BSD. So for all you people who say we never talk about BSD, you're right, but here's one instance where we are going to. So I win. There is an OS in pre-alpha that's completely open source called ravynOS. That's RAVYNOS. Its goal is to bring the macOS UI experience to an open source operating system, because we know macOS is not. No closed garden that you get from Apple, no forced Apple integrations, but all the beauty of Aqua. Because if you've ever played with Mac, I know that this is one of those things where some people may disagree, but for overall, I think most humans would agree Aqua is beautiful. When you boot into Mac OS, it's quite a beautiful, clean experience from a desktop experience. So the Mac OS desktop environment being on top of BSD, or technically Darwin now, and the cool thing about this is they plan to add compatibility layer for Mac applications. Yeah. So if they can get that done, which is a big if they could get that done without being sued, that will be truly impressive. Number one, because Apple's very protective of their stuff. But I think it would be a really fun project. Now, do I think a bunch of businesses are going to go out and install this and it's going to become the next big operating system across the world? No, but I think it's a really fun hacker project to get going there, that they're taking, all of the beautiful pieces of macOS and essentially making it open source. So they're transitioning to Darwin XNU at its core so that they can get that macOS fidelity happening, that compatibility layer, but at the cost of losing some of the hardware compatibility layers that BSD has by default. So they're doing that trade-off there, and they have a huge blog post out there of why they wanted to make that trade-off. A lot of it because it would take just way too much time and licensing issues and other things out there. So apparently macOS does have a microkernel out there that's open source, and they're using portions of that to essentially build this out. But I don't know, Jill, what do you think? I thought this was a fun, kind of cool project out there.
Oh, I do too. This is so unique and fun because there've been a lot of Mac OS ports that are Linux distros that look like Mac OS. So why not use the original BSD, which it's based off of? It makes sense, and it's a very secure. BSD is a very security focused operating system. In fact, it's so security focused. That's why not everything works on BSD, but it does on Linux. Sometimes getting your Wi-Fi dongle to work can be an issue.
I see you've experienced BSD, Jill.
Oh, yes, yes. I ran BSD, yeah.
Did you have one of the listeners that were constant? Like, I came across the BSD folks pretty early, and this is no slide to them because Linux folks are the same way. But the BSD crew are very pushy with, like, you need to try, if you like Linux, you need to try BSD. And so I installed this thing, and I'm like, man, this feels like 10 steps back from Linux. Not because of the architecture or underlying design, but the compatibility pieces. So you're going back to those days of Linux where it was like hard to get stuff to run on your actual system. And that, again, this is probably 5-6 years ago. Last time I played with BSD was one of the issues, but this would get me back into BSD. I would play with this just to kind of, see, can it actually run DMGs from Mac OS and install it, and how quickly will they get sued will be the other thing. I hope they don't, by the way, but Apple's just weird that way sometimes.
Don't know what they're gonna do.
Yeah, Craig, what are your thoughts on this? Is this something you'd be interested in?
My first free Unix I used was FreeBSD in the early 90s. Probably before I used Linux, probably came out around the same time, 1992, 93 or something with FreeBSD. And before that, I was using SunOS. And of course, I used to own a Next Station. Yes. So that's all BSD under the covers. And it's a great OS. A lot of network appliances, you still use it today. I think what's nice about it from that perspective, to your point, Ryan, it's actually, because it supports a lot less, I think it's just easier to secure because they're not trying to do everything. That's just part of it. And for years, I used to run an OpenBSD firewall Now I don't know if I would use
pfSense
OpenBSD as my desktop system, but I mean, for that application, maybe, and that's probably being unfair. I haven't looked at OpenBSD in quite some time. So yeah, I like BSD in a way. It's got a lot of simple things to it, but as a desktop, it looks like an interesting idea. I hope it gets some legs. We'll see.
Yeah.
I think Apple, since Steve Jobs passing, Apple has basically been taken over by bean counters, and they're not really doing anything cool anymore.
I agree with that.
Ski goggles? Virtual ski goggles. Come on. Honestly, I joke with my friends. I was like, if Steve Jobs were alive today, he'd be throwing people off the roof.
Oh my
Some
gosh,
of the stuff that they did. I'm like, come on, guys. So we'll see. It'd be interesting to see where the project goes. I just learned about it in the link when you sent me the show notes. I was like, oh, it looks pretty cool.
Yeah. It's really beautiful looking. Yeah, just like Aqua. And but I to your point, Craig, I came from the roots of Unix and Solaris too, and it's a very powerful operating system that is stable with whatever software you need it to run. That's the whole point of it, is that it's one of the big points of using BSD, because we used to use it in the animation world to run from Alias Wavefront and whatnot. So they made sure that those products work on BSD. Yeah. The other cool thing is OBS now works on BSD.
Really?
So I think that's kind of a game changer. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Look at that. That's pretty cool.
You're making me want to go to the free BSD site. Should I? I'm scared to do it now in the middle of the podcast recording.
Click it.
No, there's not going to be a antimatter explosion, is there? I'm just making sure.
You got to live on the edge, man. You got to live on the edge. If you're not running Arch, you got to do a BSD install in the middle of a podcast. That's how we roll around.
I might load it. I have some spare hardware here. I just loaded Fedora on it. I'm thinking about what to do with the machine, but maybe make it a free BSD box.
Yeah.
Well,
so
when I think of the awesomeness of BSD, I think of TrueNAS or FreeNAS formerly, which is
that's exactly what it is.
Classics.
Yeah, that's
amazingly stable, amazingly well written. pfSense is a firewall. So when you look at network appliances and things like that, like BSD, second to none in a lot of ways. With some of those,
so like even backup services that are very open source friendly, rsync.net. I think they're running OpenBSD or one of the BSDs on the back end. Again, another service, they never go down. Right.
Yeah.
Again, just one of these. Yeah. They never go down. Occasionally you get a maintenance thing, but they just kind of work. Yeah.
So, Craig, did you ever run NetBSD? I used to have to use NetBSD.
I did briefly.
Yeah.
Back in the day, there was the big NetBSD wars and OpenBSD wars, and that's what it is.
BSD.
And then
PC
eventually,
BSD.
That's it. I think Linux
who won the war?
Linux won.
Linux
won the wars.
Because they basically adopted, frankly, the Microsoft model, which was work everywhere, be compatible, and have a lot of software support. So I think that's ultimately why of the Unix software versions. Well, I should probably say the Mac one, maybe, but that's it. So I think.
But to your point, Mac has been doing so many kind of silly things recently that I'm not sure that they'll be able to maintain that long term. And Linux has been growing, which is really interesting. Jill, I don't have the number in front of me, but didn't we just hit 5% and then or 3%, and then we just hit 5% of Steam machines? It was a month later or something ridiculous. That used to take 2 years.
Yeah,
to get 2%.
Look, and to put it in cloud servers, it's 95% are Linux. It's just an amazingly huge adoption.
Incredible
growth on there. But it's I think Mac is I like Mac, the hardware and stuff. It's beautiful. It works well. I did own one of the early MacBook Pro that had a touch screen. The first horrible product, multiple failures, but mostly there it was okay. But I think they're going towards that walled garden. They're trying to turn the laptops into an iPad.
Yeah,
I think that's
right. Yeah,
I think that's the problem. Because it's going to end up like Microsoft, you got to register. We want your fingerprint, your a blood sample to get your account. I think they're moving away from that. So we'll see what happens. But I sold my Mac hardware years ago. I just went all Linux. I guess I just got to eat my own dog food. I don't miss it at all. I don't miss the Mac.
Yep. You know what I miss about Mac when they had the and Jill, I know you can feel me on this, the translucent colored computers.
Yeah,
like
iMacs,
the bright blue, the red, but they made computers fun. Why is every computer so muted and boring nowadays? Like they all look the same. I mean, I'll give it to Frameworks. They've done some cool things with their, desktops and things to try to where you can swap out different parts and at least make a piece of it orange or whatever. But computer, why are they so darn boring? Like they used to be fun and colorful.
Money. It costs more money to create those unique colors.
The investor said no. We don't want people to be happy.
Yeah, but you can build your own in whatever color you want. Like I have pink ones and purple ones and aqua ones.
But I miss fun looking computers. Like that's why when I did this new Intel build, I went with all white with lots of RGB fun color that I could change and make it fun when I came into the room and want to approach it and play with it. Like not a muted black or anything in there.
And you got to put on did they have a hoodie scheme? Hoodie scheme you can put on there?
I need to work on that, man. What a great idea, because then I'll be elite hacker.
That would be funny. You could do LEDs in the shape of a hoodie on your keyboard with Kali Linux.
Kali Linux everywhere, on the open screen, it just scrolls Kali Linux user, just in case.
That's right.
Yeah.
In case no one knows.
My gosh. All right, Jill, what did you bring for us this week?
Something really, really cool.
All right.
Canonical, the creators of course, Ubuntu Linux and AMI of American Megatrends Inc. fame, of our BIOS fame, have announced a huge collaboration. AMI is a provider of UEFI, or Unified Extensible Firmware Interface, and before that, legacy BIOS since the 1980s. In fact, I had the AMI BIOS on my very first Pentium Pros from 1985 that I've shown here on the show. And so the Canonical and AMI partnership enables users of AMI's Optio 5 UEFI firmware to netboot directly into Ubuntu. And now you can install Ubuntu simply by selecting Ubuntu Cloud installation in the boot menu of the BIOS.
Wow.
That's so sweet. This, new native boot function eliminates the need for downloading ISOs and flashing images to a USB flash drive or using external devices. All you need to install and launch Ubuntu is a simple Ethernet connection. It's really amazing and brilliant.
That's a cool idea. So we were talking about next stations earlier. So next stations used to have the net boot, and you could boot them over the internet, and they'd pull the kernel and get everything. So this is a neat idea too, because you think about it. Could you then have a computer that you simply boot up? You're like, I would like to have a clean Linux desktop for me to use right now.
Yeah,
and just
so
boot
sweet.
It? Pretty interesting idea. Yeah.
And you know what? I'm kind of looking at this as the net boot for the consumer.
Right. Sure.
Yeah, because you've always been able to net boot with Linux, like from live CDs and Debian and whatnot. But now this is for the consumer, built into the BIOS, easy peasy, lemon squeezy.
Yeah. Interesting.
This is super cool because it shows how Linux is becoming a first-class citizen amongst hardware providers. Because it's
and PCs.
It's probably no easy task to go in there and edit some of that old BIOS code to even add stuff like this in there, I'm sure. So, number one, hats off to Canonical. They do a very good job creating hardware partnerships and partnerships with vendors out there, which is very important for Linux overall. Once those relationships are established, it opens doors for other potential distros and things that have gotten big, Fedoras or other things, Kali Linux, hopefully, to get in there and be able to maybe take advantage of this too at some point. But Canonical paved the way for this partnership. They also did a lot of paving the way for the NVIDIA partnerships and have done a lot of work with NVIDIA, which hasn't always been easy to work with, as Torvalds would tell us. So, hats off. I think it's a really impressive achievement from both fronts, and I really appreciate the fact that also American Megatrends was willing to do this. They don't have to. So,
well, Ryan, the AMI UEFI is one of the most common UEFIs in manufacturers of motherboards, such as ASUS, ASRock, Gigabyte, MSI, as well as smaller OEMs. So there's actually a good chance you're using the AMI UEFI right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know I am right now in my podcasting rig.
So I don't want to beat this dead horse, but Craig, you're not afraid to say what's on your mind. So let me just ask you this.
Is that the reputation I have?
This hardware situation we're dealing with because of AI. So kind of to set the landscape for people, you're now paying more money in your electricity bill, likely. You'll see in there that your power bill's gone up because you're helping fund all of the AI data centers out there. On top of this now, we're now in the Bitcoin 3.0 phase, I would say, where remember when cryptocurrency made GPUs really expensive?
Yeah.
Well, now AI's not only made GPUs really expensive, but I'm seeing advertisements of 32 gigs of RAM for $500. And I saw one for $1,000 for 32 gigabytes of DDR5 RAM. What the heck is happening here with hardware? And will this even be a concern with us of having Ubuntu and a motherboard? Because none of us are going to have a motherboard in the future. We're just going to have like a little box that dials into the internet and connects us to a cloud-based
We could see. I was telling you before the show started, so my main desktop system here, a couple of the USB ports have went out, and I'm worried it's got creeping death happening to it.
Yeah.
So, so I don't quite trust it now. But so I was looking to price out a new motherboard. Of course, I have to buy a new AM5 socket because the AM4s are old. And so that means you're immediately in DDR5 territory. And I was like, what is going on? I was like, it's like the price of an ounce of gold is cheaper than an ounce of RAM.
Yeah.
It's like crazy. So we'll see where it goes. I mean, hopefully it'll catch up, but the amount of the amount of electricity being used by these, you just hope it's worth it. I saw the amount of electricity being burned by Bitcoin. I was a bit annoyed by it. I was like, what a waste of resources. Hopefully the AI stuff is less of a waste of resources. I don't know.
Somebody pointed this out and I started thinking about it a little deeper. They're pointing out, how many wasted prompts are out there. And then I started thinking really think about that for a moment. When you look at the browsers now, a lot of the search engines have the AI built in. So whatever you're searching for, it'll give you like a little summary of course, which takes revenue from the sites to actually write the stuff, and everything else is its own issue. But just looking at the energy factor alone, if I'm over there searching what's the best brand of cranberry sauce for Thanksgiving, I've got these GPUs running in this center, burning all this energy to calculate the greatest answer for the best cranberry sauce.
Let me research 300 papers on hybrid cranberries in the state of Maine and get back to you.
Exactly. Yeah,
that's crazy.
So ludicrous. I love AI in some instances, and I think it's really useful. And like you said, it's here to stay. Although I think the bubble will pop. It's not going to be what everyone maybe wanted it to be. What that looks like will be interesting. But certainly, can we all agree to stop wasting so much of this power on the dumbest things? And that search, that search engine kind of AI is probably one of the biggest wasteful and hurtful to anybody who creates content things out there, because now YouTube's even doing it with every YouTube video. They will put a summary of what the video is about under there. Think about all that processing power to do that. When up until that point, how you got the description? I wrote it.
Yeah.
I wrote what the video was about in the description, and it was actually accurate.
I've literally asked Linux forensics questions to AI, and it quoted back, command line that was identical to an article I wrote on that subject, right? It was very unique. It was Google doing it, and it's just clearly they have to get the data from somewhere, and we actually, like a lot of companies, we do SEO and stuff like that, make sure our website's running okay, and I stopped using an SEO firm last year because I'm like, these AI systems are just going to make all this, what you're doing here, obsolete. They're just, this isn't going to work. So I think that search engine as we've known it is going away, and it's just going to be you're going to ask these systems, they're going to come up with a summary with 8 to 10 links at the bottom that you go read yourself. And most people are going to be reading these summaries, and that's just how it's going to be. I hope they get more efficient. I think that, like some of these, like an iPhone today, is very powerful piece of hardware. I think the LLMs will be able to be run locally on some of these devices, and hopefully they won't be using as much power in the future, but I don't know.
How else
we'll
you going to learn about the hybrid cranberry and, some
in Maine? I don't know. Do they grow cranberries in Maine? I think they do. I don't know. I made that up. I should ask the AI.
Yeah. Now, how many people do you think we just got search? The search AI.
People
for the
think
best
I'm some type of cranberry expert. I'm just making stuff up on the middle of the podcast.
This podcast will be single-handedly responsible for crashing the AI servers for people looking for the best cranberry out there in the world, and I'll be pretty proud of that.
We all know the best cranberry is the American goo that comes out of the can that's can-shaped.
Of course, yes. I mean, we're very proud of that goo, sir.
Like you put it on a plate, it's like obvious came from the can. Like, oh, we'll just slice it up. Like it just looks like a sliced can. It's hilarious. You would never find it. You never find that in New Zealand, by the way. These types of uniquely American products. I don't think they let it in the country.
I'm so glad we're known for that.
Banned at the border. America's down here. You're also known for that fluorescent yellow cheese.
Oh yeah.
Like in New Zealand, a lot of the cheese is not colored yellow. That's an American thing. Too. I could go. We should have an episode on American and New Zealand. I could tell you all about the place.
Oh man, that would be interesting.
That would be cool.
Yeah. That would be fun. Yeah. We'll share cultures there, and I might for Christmas ship you a can of the cranberries there. So you seem like, if you don't have it there, funny. I feel like you're missing out. I'll get you some. It would be too expensive.
Do you know what I crave sometimes? Speaking of fluorescent yellow cheese, is that disgusting box Kraft macaroni and cheese with the powder. I sometimes really crave it.
It's so
good.
I know it's gross.
Classic.
It's all chemicals and crap, but it's just delicious chemicals.
Yeah, the yellow is not food coloring. The yellow is Chernobyl dirt.
Chernobyl dirt. I'm like you, Craig. I prefer white cheddar myself.
Well, look, the one thing we're really good at in the United States is allowing companies to monopolize something and then completely ruin that product. Because there was a time when that Kraft mac and cheese was actually real cheese and real product, and then it just gets chemicalized and
I don't know what it is. It's crazy.
But you still crave the chemicals, Yeah. You still crave the chemicals.
You're fighting. You know what? You're fighting an army of food scientists that do nothing all day but think of stuff that tastes really good to you that you can't stop eating. That's a horrible industry.
Craig, I'll have to send you a slab of Velveeta cheese.
Oh no!
So you can show your kids what it's like to live in America.
To be an American,
rubbery. They're gonna, I don't know what they'll say. They'll think it's like a tire patching compound.
Do I fix a hole with it in the wall?
Yeah.
What is this for? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I love that the Campbell's soup executive got busted here talking about how his own product is crap and he'd never feed it to his own kids. Did that news make it to you guys over there, Craig?
I'm afraid I missed it, but I don't know if I'm too surprised. But
so they filmed a Campbell's soup VP, and someone was secretly recording him, and he was just talking about how crappy their product is. And I'm like, yeah, that's amazing to be pushing that on kids and everything else and knowing that it's complete garbage, but it's very uniquely American. So that's our show, though. If we haven't got you riled up with one of those topics, I don't know what will rile you up. You got all kinds of stuff to write us about now.
Yeah, I aim to please. Glad I was able to contribute.
It starts with Ryan's hoodie.
Yes.
And goes,
it's all downhill from there.
Let me help Craig out there. Look at that. Look at the respect Craig has for me instantly.
I got the blood pressure going. Yeah.
So a big thank you to each and every one of you for supporting us by watching or listening to Destination Linux. However you do it, we love your faces. And if you want more content, well, go to our website, check us out, and go to tuxdigital.com/membership. Become a patron of this amazing show.
And make sure to check out all the cool shows here on Tux Digital. That's right, we have an entire network of shows to fill your whole week with geeky goodness. Head to tuxdigital.com to keep those Linux penguins marching. And make sure to watch Ryan's Darkenstein 3D game streams live on Sunday mornings or afternoons on his DOS Geek YouTube channel. Or you could watch the VODs later And the other awesome videos he has released recently on his channel, like the two-faced partner, how Mozilla sold out Firefox's privacy mission.
Ooh, that's a deep one. You should check that one out. Everybody, have a great
week.
And what do they do, Jill?
And remember that the journey itself is just as important as the destination.
Now, I want people to know that I put the hoodie on and I hacked Jill doing the closing of the show by stealing part of it from her. That is how good of that's like when you have a hoodie on, you're constantly thinking about breaking things. And that Craig doesn't understand the power of the hoodie.
You look a little bit like a Sith Lord with it on.
Yeah. That's because me and him came from the elite BBSs. I mean, the keys to the internet and all the things.
Oh, my goodness. Well, Craig, thank you again. Awesome
I appreciate
as always.
Thanks for having me on.
We're going to have you on next time.